What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Face Mask Fantasy. Welcome to the beginning of week 2 of the 2025 season. Packers Commanders tonight. Taking you right up to the start of that game for the 4th straight year exclusively on Prime Video. So make sure to double check your Prime subscription. Make sure you're all saddled up and ready to go to watch that game. Should be a good one tonight between two of the better teams in the conference, better teams in the NFC in Green Bay and Washington. So it should be a good one. I will, as always, on top of going over practice reports, go over just generic thoughts that I have going into the game. There's plenty of guys that are slam dunk options in this game, and then there are others that are maybe on the fence depending on your options that are available to you, whether it's Superflex or not, all that good stuff. So I'll give a generic overview of how I'm feeling about the guys that are going tonight, talk shop on latest practice reports, and then take your questions. As always, whether you've been here before, welcome back. If you are here for the first time, welcome in. I will take any and all questions, and we can definitively start looking at start-sit options now that it's Thursday and we've had a couple of days of practice reports for the vast majority of teams. Remember, there are 2 games on Monday night this week, not just one. We've got a Monday night doubleheader. So, make sure to keep that in mind. But for everybody else, we've got 2 days of practice, so we will go over that and look at start-sit questions. If you have a question, members will get first priority. That's a perk of being a member of the channel. Their questions will be asked out of order and to the front of the line, regardless of when they get asked. If you send a super, that would also be a way to get your question to jump the line. That would be another way for you to get your, to get an answer faster, and you maybe get a little bit more information from me. Whether you're a member or if you send a super. If you are not a member and you do not send a super, I will get to your question ultimately, but it may take a little bit of time, so I just ask for some patience as I work through news and notes, practice reports from around the league, generic overview of Thursday Night Football, and then, of course, member and super questions first. Whether you are a member or not, if you are enjoying the stream, the engagement, the dialogue, the conversation, all that good stuff, I only ask that you like the stream. That helps me out for algorithm purposes. Let's get into it. I guess the big injury update since we last talked was that it was definitively confirmed. This wasn't confirmed on Tuesday, but it is confirmed now that 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy is going to miss anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks with a form of turf toe. A turf toe variant was the official diagnosis that I saw on Twitter. So the 49ers without their starting quarterback for certainly this week against New Orleans and as possibly as many as 3 additional games after that. Again, this is based on the current diagnosis that we have for Brock Purdy. San Francisco is already without George Kittle for the next 4 games. He is on injured reserve. So we're pretty much down to Mac Jones will start for the next month potentially for San Francisco as they will lean on the likes of Christian McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall. I believe Jawan Jennings is practicing in a limited fashion this week, so they'll have him. And then a bunch of other depth guys that can hopefully step up. Brian Robinson behind Christian McCaffrey, Kendrick Bourne perhaps behind Pearsall and Jennings. It's going to be a bit of a makeshift situation for the 49ers offense for the next couple of weeks potentially. McCaffrey's not coming out of your lineup, and honestly, I think Pearsall is perfectly safe to keep in your lineup in that scenario, or in scenarios where you find yourself starting him, just because they're going to need to lean on him out of just the absence of Kittle. They're going to need Pearsall, so I wouldn't be too worried about him just because Mac Jones is starting, but there is. That offense is going through some flux right now, some early challenges to start the season, and then we don't even, of course, know if Purdy's current trajectory to return is accurate. So we will see about that. If you have Purdy, you're obviously looking for alternate plans. If Justin Fields was available on the waiver wire, hopefully we're able to grab him. If you have Purdy, you haven't made a pickup yet, and there are options on the wire, you can let me know. We can talk about your choices for certainly this week again. This week to replace him, and then in the coming weeks as well. Certainly, looking likely with the current 2 to 5 week timeline to return. Let's see. A lot of tight ends not practicing. Mason Taylor not practicing for the Jets. Darren Waller not practicing for the Dolphins. Isaiah Likely not practicing for the Ravens. Not really any surprises there. You weren't relying on Waller. You weren't relying on Likely just yet. We were expecting him to miss a couple of games to start the season. And in all likelihood, outside of deeper leagues, you're not really relying on Mason Taylor. Perhaps we're relying on Dallas Goedert. He's not practicing for Philly. Neither is Will Shipley. That makes sense after the acquisition of Tank Bigsby earlier this week by Philly. Shipley's injury is possibly, going to hold him out for some time here. So they felt the need, Philly did, to add some running back depth behind Saquon. So him and Dallas Goedert not practicing, second straight day. That is not looking good for their chances to play on Sunday. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, especially with Dallas Goedert being out, you're firing them up as you normally would. Maybe they see an uptick in targets, which they could use because neither one performed particularly well from a fantasy perspective on Thursday night. That being said, they are staying in your lineup. And then just sticking with the tight end injury updates, Brock Bowers was not seen participating in practice Thursday. However, today was the first day of practice for the Raiders. They are one of the 4 teams playing on Monday night this week. Again, it is a Monday night doubleheader. Bowers, the Raiders being one of the 2 teams. That is an update that is more along the lines of a Wednesday practice update for most other teams. It is the first day of practice. Bowers, picked up this knee injury during week 1 against New England, was forced to leave the game, did not return. Reportedly said after the game that he felt like he could have gone back in, so maybe not too serious. Nevertheless, the Raiders being somewhat cautious with Bowers. I wouldn't expect that to be much of anything. I think we'll be all right there. Xavier Worthy practiced in a limited fashion today. That was a bit of a surprise. By all accounts, we were expecting Xavier Worthy to miss multiple weeks after suffering a shoulder injury. I don't know that he's necessarily out of the woods yet to play this week. However, getting on track with a limited practice on Thursday is an excellent sign. Maybe he's a fast healer. Maybe he'll be out there week 2. Let's keep an eye on that one with Xavier Worthy. But it doesn't look like we can completely rule him out just yet, even though it was looking like it, a multi-week absence just a couple of days ago. Christian Kirk not practicing Thursday. That's not a surprise. We were told that the hamstring injury that he recently suffered would keep him out for a while. He missed week 1. He doesn't look like he's going to play week 2. His next chance will play week 3. The Texans wide receiver core is a hodgepodge at the moment behind Nico Collins. There is reason for optimism for rookies like Jaden Higgins. However, they operated behind the veterans last week. It's possible that remains the same this week for Houston as they look to get back on track and in the win column. We'll see if they continue to roll out veteran incumbents over the guys like Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. We shall see. Evan Engram fully practiced for Denver. He exited last week's game with a calf injury. He's a low-end tight end 1. Certainly some volatility there, though. And Jawan Jennings is actually not practicing for San Francisco, and that is for the second straight day. So that is actually not a good sign for Jawan Jennings. The 49ers are remarkably banged up. Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall can confidently be started just because that's pretty much what San Francisco is down to as their options on offense right now. No other dart throws are worth it. Perhaps Mac Jones in Superflex leagues, but hopefully you can make alternate plans other than Mac Jones. Tristan Wirfs, Chris Godwin sound like they're trending in the right direction for Tampa Bay. We were always given an inclination that neither of them would be available for the first month of the season. Godwin has always been tracking to return week 5. That had been the report as recently as the beginning of this week, and that's what they were all saying all of last week. But he did return to practice in a limited fashion today. I didn't see if Tristan Wirfs practiced But it sounds like both are trending in the right direction. Todd Bowles made some passing comment that they could be available for Monday. I think that's smoke and mirrors. Todd Bowles is notorious for being inaccurate with his answers to questions about the injury report. He is notorious for being one of those coaches that he may not give us a straight answer, a direct answer, one that is actually completely accurate. So I'm taking that information with a grain of salt. I am expecting Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs to continue to miss a little bit of time here. Maybe we're on the faster track to return for those two than slower, which is great. But I can't imagine either one plays week 2. And again, I was of the mindset that we wouldn't see either one until week 5. However, they both avoided the short-term injured reserve list to start the season. So who knows? Maybe it will be by week 3 or 4, and maybe we'll get a miracle update by Monday, the Bucs being one of the 4 teams playing on Monday night. Chris Godwin's return, in theory, could hurt Emeka Egbuka, but we're not worried about that right now. If you have Emeka Egbuka, you are firing him up with plenty of confidence for week 2. Again, on Monday night. I think those are the big injury updates. Darnell Mooney, limited in practice. He's maybe a bench stash in shallower leagues. A guy that in deeper leagues is maybe more of a roster hold, but Mooney not currently on the radar. I think that about does it for injury updates. I'll keep an eye on if we get any more practice updates. Here over the next couple of hours. Thursday night football. And I see that I got a couple of questions in the chat, including a super from Nick. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate that. I will get to your question first as soon as I get through my thoughts on Packers Commanders. This may pertain to you. It may not, but just a general overview on Thursday night football to quickly go over my thoughts. And then I will get into the specific questions. The must-starts in this game are, if you drafted Jaden Daniels, that's your starting quarterback. If you drafted Josh Jacobs, he's probably your RB1, maybe an RB2 if you went robust running back. Those two are both in your starting lineup. In general, I want to start Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. However, I feel like we're getting farther and farther away from this being an issue, but playing on a short week, especially on the road, has always been it's given me it's just bad vibes. And that doesn't always work out. Doesn't always mean it's true. And in general, with higher drafted players, the guys that are basically in stud category for you, you have to just deal with it and fire them up anyway. It's always the ancillary guys, the secondary players that could be flex options for you one week and on your bench the next. This is a week where I like to maybe consider benching those players. I worry a little bit more about players, specifically those playing on the road, having to travel on a short week for Thursday night. Again, I think that's becoming less and less of a problem. Teams are used to it at this point. Teams have adapted to it at this point. Playing on a Thursday night is nothing new for the NFL at this point. We've been doing it for, a decade now, maybe more, as far as games that are being played on Thursday outside of Thanksgiving. It is a normal part of the schedule. Therefore, it's not unrealistic to expect that players have just grown acclimated to it. They're not fazed by it anymore. Maybe not as big of a deal as it used to be, but I still like to throw that out there for anybody considering a player on Thursday night. Guys that are in that flex range, like an Austin Eckler, I'm more likely to lean against them. The Packers wide receivers, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. I don't know how strong I feel about them. They're flex plays at the moment. Jaden Reed had a nice game. Don't know that that's going to, duplicate itself. Don't know if maybe the score goes to Dobbs, maybe the score goes to Golden, maybe the score goes to, whoever else they have rolling out there. Tucker Kraft, I don't know, Savion Williams. You never know what random player steps up on a Thursday night. So the guys that are more in the flex conversation, I shy away from a little bit more on Thursday nights. You probably drafted Terry as one of your top 3 receivers. So if you start 3 wide receivers, you probably need to start him. The same might be said for Deebo, depending on how you built your team. If you went robust running back to start your draft and, Debo was maybe a 6th or 7th round pick for you, but where you ended up drafting your receivers, he's your 3rd receiver, so you have to start him. If you were planning to start them as if they were playing on Sunday, you can plan to start them tonight. I just, the Thursday night football thing can always expect like a little bit of downside here just because players have had less time to heal and recover from Sunday. So that being said, superstars, stay in your lineup. Jaden Daniels, Josh Jacobs, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, probably need to leave in your lineup. Tucker Kraft might be your starting tight end, so you can go with him. I guess the guy that is kind of, what do you do with him or not is Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Had a great debut, 10 for 82 and a touchdown. Week 1 against the Giants. This is a tougher matchup on the road going up against the Green Bay Packers. They have a very tough defense. Now anchored by Micah Parsons, things will be a little bit more challenging for Croskey-Merritt and the Commanders' offense in general going up against Green Bay compared to going up against the Giants. Croskey-Merritt is in the flex conversation if you feel like you need him. If he is a guy that you are potentially looking to fire up, let me know, and I can, give me the alternate option to Croskey-Merritt, and we could take a look at that. I don't mind firing him up as an RB3. But if you have another, say a wide receiver in full PPR that we feel a little safer about, I might lean that direction. Again, just because it's a Thursday night game. However, the arrow is pointing up on Croskey-Merritt. Make no mistake. He appears to be poised to take over this backfield as the lead runner. So from that perspective, you could already consider him a layup for your starting lineup. I maybe need one more week, especially given the circumstances. But if he comes through this week, if he comes through tonight against Green Bay, then Croskey-Merritt probably has forced himself into the conversation of he's in your lineup, and it's a matter of he's a regular in your lineup. It's a matter of who are you taking out to leave him in there. So let me know if you have Croskey-Merritt, and we can sort out your alternate options. If you're on the fence about playing him tonight. Jordan Love in super flex leagues, Zach Ertz in deeper leagues is perfectly fine. Everybody else is a bit of a boom bust play. The Packers wide receivers are up and down. You could start Jaden Reed in the flex if you were planning to rely on him. But again, short week, Jones fracture, not a lot of recovery time for him. Could be a little volatile even though he scored last week. Packers wide receivers tough to trust tonight. Austin Eckler, deep shot in full PPR leagues. Deep shot in full PPR leagues is Austin Eckler. But you could do worse. Okay, those are my general thoughts on Packers Commanders. Let's get into the questions. What's going on, Nemo? Good to see you. I do have a super, though, from Nick first. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. And I will make sure to get to this one first. Again, friendly reminder, members and super questions will get prioritized at the front of the line. I just do ask for some patience, as I work through those first. This is a trade question. Okay, Quentin Johnston for Benson. You only have you have 3 running backs. So it depends. What does your wide receiver depth look like? How strong are your wide receivers? And then who are the 3 running backs that you have? Maybe you don't have James Conner. Maybe you would have called that out in the super or in the text if you had James Conner. And then if you were getting the handcuff, I would say by all means make it happen. Benson looks like he's certainly worth the hold this season. If you have 3 anchors at running back, if you drafted, let's say you drafted Derrick Henry and Chase Brown and Kyron or Breece Hall or, who else went in the 4th round or the 3rd round? If you have 3 anchors at running back, maybe I don't necessarily worry about taking on Trey Benson because Quentin Johnston is a part of what looks to be very good passing offense with the Chargers. Justin Herbert got off to an excellent start this season. Quentin Johnston's not going to catch 2 touchdowns every week, but he could be a regular contributor. He's clearly ahead of the rookies that everybody was excited about on the depth chart: Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Quentin Johnston's a third-year pro at this point and a former first-round pick in his own right. He's going to be a factor. He's going to have a regular role on this offense, you would think. So, if your wide receiver depth is a little shaky, I'm not necessarily jumping to trade him. But if your wide receiver depth is strong, and if one of those 3 running backs is like a DeAndre Swift or an Isaiah Pacheco, and you're looking to fill out your running back room with a little bit more depth, because you have one of those 3 guys, at least someone who is a little bit harder for you to trust right now, then sure. Running backs are Genty, Pollard, and Warren. Okay, so that's solid. Genty was a little underwhelming in his first career game. That almost sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like, we expect him to get better as the season progresses. Pollard has the backfield to himself at the moment. Warren, it looks to be clearly ahead of Caleb Johnson right now on the depth chart. And while Kenny Gainwell is getting work and opportunities in there, Warren is the one who has seen more touches per snap, at least through 1 week so far. That being said, this could be worked on. Collins, Pearsall, Pickens, Sutton, Metcalf. I'd say those wide receivers are pretty strong. Genty, Pollard, Warren, that's solid, but I think, I'm okay with maybe looking to improve that. So I say, that this trade is fine. To send Quentin Johnston to get Trey Benson. You're not necessarily looking for Trey Benson to help you week 2 or week 3 or even week 4, but if anything happens to Connor at some point in the season, then, if we're at week 8, week 9, week 10, and Connor's either slowing down or on the shelf, then Benson will come in handy for you. So, I'm okay with that. Grabbing some extra running back depth while your wide receiver depth is strong. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that trade. If you're the one acquiring Benson. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the super, Nick. Appreciate that. Really quick, let me get Nemo's question, and then I'll be right at the top. The Packers tonight or the Saints against a hurt San Francisco 49ers offense? I'm usually a fan, Nemo, of firing up a starting defense on Thursday night, but the Washington Commanders are not just any offense. I don't know that I want to mess around with having to hope. And the Packers have a good defense. They have a great unit. They have a good pass rush. They're at home on a short week. I feel pretty good about them, but this is not just any offense. Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Bill Croskey-Merritt, rock solid veteran tight end in Zach Ertz, and a solid play caller in Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know that if I want to play that game. That being said, I don't know if I want to play New Orleans just because the matchup looks good against the 49ers. I don't know that I trust a bad Saints team to come through even in a favorable situation. So if these are your 2 best options, my inclination is to say go with the better team, the team with more talent, the team that we expect to be better with higher expectations. I would say go Green Bay, but I'm not crazy about the matchup against Washington, specifically having to deal with Jaden Daniels. If these are your 2 best options, the Packers, but I would temper expectations a little bit because of the matchup. But generally speaking, give me the more talented unit over the less talented unit in what looks to be a good situation on paper. Let's see. 2 wide receivers and 1 running back, 1 flex. Trade Javonte for DK Metcalf. Your wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Ted McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keon Coleman. That's nice. Your running backs are Chase Brown. You have the Vikings combo in Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. You have Benson. You have Javonte. You have Tootin. So you only have to start 2 wide receivers in this league. If you had to start 3 wide receivers, I would say, yes, make this move. You only have to start 2, though. Lamb is going to be one of them every week. And honestly, I think Tet will I think Tet will eventually settle in as a guy that you are like, yep, that's my wide receiver too, and I'm not really worried about it. So I don't know that you necessarily need to upgrade there. Tet had a pretty good showing considering how bad the Panthers offense was on Sunday, and there's not going to be weather delays every week that throws everything off course and messes up the cadence and rhythm and flow of the game. That's not going to happen all the time. Running back is a little bit more, I would say, there's a little bit more week to week like volatility with your running backs. I don't mean that to sound so bad, but Jones or Mason, I like that you have both, but it might be a little bit of a tough call each week to figure out who, if either, you want to start. Javonte is startable this week against the Giants. He might not be startable every week, but he might be a decent plug and play for injury help or bye week help here and there. And then Tootin got a boost. Tootin got a boost with the trade of Tank Bigsby, so you're feeling better about him as a stash. I think I would stay put. I don't think I would do that trade. Hold on to your running back depth. You only have to start 2 wide receivers in this league, not 3. It's not 3 receivers in the flex. It's 2 receivers in the flex. So you only have to start 2 wide receivers. And you have 4 good ones. Lamb, Tet should settle in as the wide receiver 2. I like Ridley. I like Ridley season long. I think he's going to get better quarterback play from Cam Ward than he has the past couple of years. Will Levis and whatever else. And then Coleman popped on Sunday. He could be Josh Allen's number 1 target at this point. So no, I would stay put. I would not do that trade. I would not do that trade. 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, full PPR. Tyreek, Pollard, Pearsall, Terry McLaurin. The Titans get the Rams this week, and I generally like grabbing or plugging in running backs that I expect to get a lot of work. So Pollard, I think, is one of my answers. And now they're at home. The Rams are still a tougher matchup, but there's not as good of a defense as Denver. So Cam Ward at home should be a little bit better. I don't really want to mess around with Tyreek. And maybe this is just like a reaction to everything that's gone down over the past week and a half with him on and off the field. But the Dolphins feel like I can't trust you until you show me something type of situation right now. Even Tyreek Hill, he only had another 40 receiving yards this past week. Of course, he's a threat to pop off and blow up any given week, but he is older at this point. We haven't seen him have a huge game for like a year now. So I don't know that I'm super optimistic about starting Tyreek. It's between Pearsall and Terry McLaurin for me on top of starting Tony Pollard. I think I lean Pearsall. And I know that, Terry is the wide receiver 1. He's catching passes from Jaden Daniels, but it's a short week on the road against a good defense. Pearsall had 4 catches for over 100 yards last week. Now there's no George Kittle. It's looking like there might not be any Jawan Jennings for them this week. Pearsall might get 15 targets. They might not be great targets, but they might be 15 targets from Mac Jones. I would say Pearsall and Pollard. Pearsall and Pollard. I don't really want to mess around with Tyreek, and I need to see Terry shake off some more cobwebs after his hold-in all offseason long or all training camp long, and now on a short week. Yeah. I see Bobby. Thanks for popping in. Again, as a member, I'm going to jump down to Bobby's question and answer that now. But I will jump up to the top of the chat. I have my spot in line. Appreciate your patience. Would I drop Algier for Najee Harris? No, not until Najee Harris has earned it. Like Tyler Algier has a role. Najee has a role, I guess, as well, but he only played 18% of the snaps. How many snaps did Algier have? In the meantime, yes, I would absolutely drop Bryce Young for Rashee. If Rashee Rice is on waivers, yes, grab him. I am willing to wait through the suspension, have him on my bench, collecting dust, so to speak. it's a spot on your bench where you know you can't use that player for a few weeks, for 6 more games, 5 more games, but he is a difference maker when he is on the field, and I'm willing to bet on that and bank on Rashee Rice when he returns. So absolutely pick up Rashee Rice if he is on waivers. That goes for anybody. If he's out there, he shouldn't be. He should be on a roster. Going back to Tyler Algier versus Najee Harris. Algier was only on the field for 25% of the snaps, so not that much better from Najee Harris. Since you don't have Amari and Hampton, I'm not necessarily dying to have Najee Harris. I think it's okay for you to hang on to Algier. I don't think anybody's going to be knocking Najee Harris's door down after this weekend to try to pick him up. If you want to pick him up next week, you should be able to. But yes, pick up Rashee Rice. Pick up Rashee Rice. 100% pick up Rashee Rice. Yeah. Yep, I would absolutely drop Bryce Young, pick up Rashee Rice, and you can sit on that until he's back. Good to see you, Bobby. Let me know if you need anything else. I got another member question popping in from Sport Dog. What's going on Sport Dog? From what I saw, Drake London is supposed to play this week. The last I saw is that Drake London is supposed to practice this week. I am looking up his latest update as we speak. He is currently questionable. He's limited at practice for the second straight day. That is a good sign for Drake London's availability on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. London should play. You can leave him in your lineup confidently. Barring something unexpected, he will suit up. He will be, he's your wide receiver 1 in all likelihood. Yep. So London practicing in limited fashion yesterday and today. Good sign for his availability. And thanks for popping in, Sport Dog. Let me know if you need anything else. Back to the top. Have PPR. Start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Brian Thomas, yes. Marvin Harrison, Egbuka, Debo, Sutton, Breece Hall, ETN. Brian Thomas gets... Who's Jacksonville play this week? I don't even know, actually. The Bengals. Oh, that's a spectacular matchup. Brian Thomas, Cortland Sutton. Brian Thomas and Cortland Sutton. These are some really good options. You have a lot of playable players and just not enough starting spots to play them. My first order of business for you is to, at the end of the season, tell your commissioner to expand, add a starting lineup spot to your roster, so that you can play more of these really good players and not have to sit so many on your bench. I've said this multiple times on this channel before. You as a manager deserve the right to play the players that you drafted, that you knew that you wanted to draft because you were confident in them and you felt good about their chances to do well this season. And then you have to leave them all on the bench. That sucks. I will always advocate for you, the people, to be able to play your players, play the guys that you knew to draft. And now I have this surplus of good options and I have to leave a bunch of dudes on the bench. That is my TED Talk. That being said, I guess I would say Brian Thomas. I guess I would say Sutton. And then the Jets have the Bills this week, who Derrick Henry just obliterated on the ground. Derrick Henry is 1 of 1, of course, but Breece Hall had a really nice game against the Pittsburgh Steelers this past week. So maybe I ride with Breece Hall as your flex start. Brian Thomas, Cortland. I hate that you have to sit Egbuka. You should be able to play dudes like Marvin Harrison and Egbuka and Debo all you want, but you're squeezed by your starting lineup. Give me Brian Thomas. Give me Cortland Sutton. Give me Breece Hall. And then what for this week? Knicks against the Colts. He didn't look good last week. Drake May against the Dolphins. He didn't look good last week. Penix against against the Vikings. Penix did solid. I'm inclined to say May, because if he doesn't do it against the Dolphins, then I think we can declare that, maybe the industry got a little too excited and a little too hype on Drake May, and maybe he's just not, maybe he just is what he is, which is like an okay but not really good quarterback. I would say May. If he can't do it against Miami, then he's not going to do it against anybody. And then in that case, my answer would probably be, I guess it would be Knicks, but Knicks had a bad game against Tennessee this past week. So we need to see Knicks bounce back against Indianapolis. I'm not ready to make a call on rest of season for any of these guys yet. They all showed good and bad things. So I think we need to see a little bit more from each. I will take May of this group for Sunday against Miami. If he can't do it against Miami, he's not doing it against anybody. Nemo thinks Egbuka and Sutton for this question. Look, I have an impossible time getting Egbuka out of your starting lineup. But I think I would rock with Brian Thomas for one more week in a spectacular matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals before I leapfrog Egbuka over him, week over week. Egbuka's awesome though. Make no mistake. Egbuka looks like he's going to be good for a long time. Not to overreact about 1 week, but he looks great. If James Cook can't go, would I start Ray Davis or Tony Pollard? I'm sorry. Did James Cook, is he on the injury report? Did I miss something? Upgraded to full practice on Thursday. Yeah. James Cook was limited at practice Wednesday, upgraded to full on Thursday. I don't think you need to worry about James Cook. It sounds like he's fine. If he does have to miss, then my inclination is to say play the other main regular starter for their team, and that's Tony Pollard, not Ray Davis. But it sounds like James Cook's going to be fine. I don't think you have to. It doesn't look like you have to worry about James Cook. Doesn't look like you have to worry about James Cook. But if he can't go, then Pollard. Yeah. Your league mate thinks Nico is going to stink this year and wants to trade him. I am certainly not opposed to trading for Nico Collins, but T. Higgins and Calvin Ridley does feel like a lot. It does feel like a lot for Nico. Can you get a second piece back in return? Can you get do you need, is there a running back that maybe that the guy doesn't want? Or not necessarily doesn't want, but would be willing to part with. Remember, if someone is offering you a 2-for-1, or if you offer a 2-for-1 for something, somebody either needs to, when a 2-for-1 trade is offered in a redraft league format, the team acquiring two players either needs to trade somebody back or drop somebody outright. So you might as well try and get that piece back in the trade, and then you can be the one to make the decision. Do I drop this guy or not? Or do I hold him? If you can get another piece back, then I'm more interested. Like Nico and a depth running back or another depth wide receiver for Higgins and Ridley. Okay, fine. Higgins and Ridley for Nico, and then you get to pick up like a random waiver wire person. Just make them send something back in the trade. In theory, that they would have to drop that player anyway. Let you take that player, and you can be the one to decide if you want to drop him or not. So 2 for 1 straight up, I'm not super excited about. I would see if I can coax another piece out of that guy. Because if he's already out on Nico Collins, then you might be able to take advantage of that a little bit and be like, all right, well, I'm taking him off your hands, but I'm taking on a risk, and I'm giving you 2 guys that I like as wide receivers. Give me something else back in Nico. You're already out on him, so give me something else in return to make it worth my while. You know what I'm saying? Like, ask for something extra. Ask for something extra. I got another question from Bobby, so let me jump down and grab that. But I see I have my spot in line. Appreciate y'all's patience. I will come back up to your questions. Just got to take care of the members first. You need a wide receiver 2 and a flex. Sutton. And I would probably go Tet. I would go Tet, and I would go Sutton. Tet had a solid showing against Jacksonville, even though Carolina's offense didn't. And he gets another matchup that's not super scary about the Arizona Cardinals defense. Tet should be fine. Carolina should have to be thrown in this game. Arizona's offense is solid enough at home where they should put the pressure on a bad Carolina defense and score some points and force Carolina's offense to be aggressive. I'll take Tet, and I'll take Sutton. Sutton, a clear-cut wide receiver 1. His team's clear-cut wide receiver 1, and honestly, he's a borderline wide receiver 1 in fantasy. He's in that wide receiver probably 13, 14 range for me. And in full PPR, yeah, give me Tet, give me Sutton. Those are other good options. I don't want to play Golden tonight. The Packers wide receivers, it feels like it's kind of musical chairs. It could be him tonight. It could be Jaden Reed. It could be Romeo Doubs. It could be none of them. Like, who knows? I would say Tet, and I would say Sutton behind Justin Jefferson. Pittman's going up against Patrick Surtain, so no thank you. Judy, they're playing Baltimore. Cleveland is. I feel like the Ravens, the Josh Allen can make any defense look bad. I don't think the Ravens are as bad of a unit as they looked against the Bills on the road on Sunday night. I think they will course correct and get some things right against Cleveland. So I'm not as enthusiastic about Judy. Golden, I think he was like 5th in Packers wide receivers in routes run. So no thank you. And then Javonte, nice game. Do it again before we fire you up over bona fide wide receiver 1s. Give me Tet, give me Sutton. Okay. This was from Nick's Super. Thank you again, Nick, for the support. Start Ertz or Fannin in full PPR. This feels like a true coin flip. Ertz obviously going tonight against Green Bay. He is a threat to do very little, but he's also a threat to just happen to be standing in the end zone and Jaden Daniels throws him the ball. Like, Ertz he's that classic type of, he knows the defense. He can read coverage. He knows where to sit down in the coverage. And sometimes he catches it. And sometimes when he catches it, he's standing in the end zone. Fannin is super enticing. But again, like I just told Bobby, the Browns are now they're playing the Ravens on the road. That's a different animal than the Cincinnati Bengals, who had a solid defensive game plan on last week 1, but we still don't expect much from that defensive unit yet this year, given how horrendous they were last year and how few personnel changes actually happened. Fannin is still splitting opportunities with David Njoku. And I don't know for sure that he has cleared David Njoku as far as is he going to get more opportunities than Njoku every single week. In a matchup against Baltimore, where he's still splitting work with David Njoku, I think I slightly lean Ertz tonight as just like you're just hoping he catches a touchdown. Routes run last week at the tight end position, snaps played at the tight end position last week. David Njoku still led the Browns in snaps with 84% of them on offense. Fannin had 72%. That's really good. It's still behind Njoku. The targets just so happened to be finding Fannin this past week. We could still be in a scenario here where that swings back to Njoku any given week. Whereas, with Ertz, he's on the field. He was actually on the field only 64% of the time. However, he was way over John Bates 53% of the time. And I believe he ran a lot more routes than John Bates as well. That number might go up tonight against a much better Packers team than the Giants. It is noteworthy, though, to see that Fannin actually, even as the tight end 2 for the Browns, outsnapped Zach Ertz. 45 snaps for Ertz, which was 64% of the team snaps. Fannin, 55 snaps. That was 72%. So the Browns played more. The Browns played 10 more snaps than the Commanders did. So that factored in a little bit. I slightly lean Ertz. It's a coin flip, really. You can start Fannin if you want. What tips the scales for me is I think David Njoku is a greater threat for volume at the tight end position than John Bates and Ben Sinnott are, when competing with Zach Ertz. I think Ertz's role is safer. Njoku and Fannin might be cannibalizing each other a little bit week over week. It could be Fannin for one more week in week 2, but it could swing to Njoku. The chances that it swings to John Bates or Ben Sinnott is less likely. So I'm just going to play the numbers and say Ertz. I'll say Ertz. Lawrence, Love, or Flacco in one quarterback. Appreciate the kind words. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Lawrence gets the Cincinnati Bengals. Jordan Love going tonight against Washington. Had a decent game. Not a huge game. I guess the Green Bay also didn't really need Jordan Love to have a huge game. They handled their business quite well against Detroit. Or Flacco on the road against Baltimore. All of these guys are kind of in like the QB 15 to 18 range. I guess I go Love just because he's better than Trevor Lawrence. And he's better at this point in his career than Joe Flacco. I'll say Love. He's at home tonight against a Commanders defense that, they've got some pieces, but I don't think they're as strong of a unit as like the general consensus thinks they are. They have good pieces, but the Packers are a good offense and a well-coached offense, and they're at home, and Love is healthy. I say that because he wasn't healthy for a good chunk of the start of the season last year. I say Love of this group. Lawrence it comes down to, because Lawrence is in a good matchup against Cincinnati, but Love is better. Love is better than Lawrence, and he's better than Flacco. He's better than 40-year-old Joe Flacco. His receivers are impossible to figure out, but if you have Jordan Love, you don't care who he throws the ball to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Savion Williams catches a touchdown, or if Luke Musgrave catches a touchdown, or if some other random backup tight end catches a touchdown, or the backup running back catches a touchdown. You don't care if you have Jordan Love. You don't care if a lineman catches the touchdown. So don't let the the questionable musical chairs rotation of the Green Bay Packers wide receiver core scare you off from starting Jordan Love, I would play Love over these other two guys. And Love will run. Like, not Lamar Jackson levels, but Love will run. My answer of those three options is Love. He's the closest I would rank as a QB1 this week. And then real quick from Bobby, would I drop Jordan Love and pick up Bo Nix on waivers? I'd rather drop somebody else. Like, I'd rather drop like your last wide receiver or your last, I don't really want to drop running back depth, but I would rather drop your last receiver for Bo. I do want Bo Nix. He shouldn't be on waivers, but I don't know that I want to drop Love to get him. I would like to have both of those guys on my roster as options, assuming I'm not severely hurting at depth at wide receiver or running back. I would rather drop one of my last players on my bench that isn't a quarterback. That being said, I do think Bo Nix is worth picking up, and if Jordan Love is the obvious drop, you can do that. You could drop Matthew Golden. I don't really want to drop Golden yet. I don't want to play Matthew Golden right now, but I don't want to drop him and have him emerge. You know, it might take a few more weeks for him, but if he is their most raw, purely talented player at the receiver position, I'm willing to wait a couple more weeks because you probably drafted him with some decent draft capital. I'm not willing to give up on him just yet that quickly. So I'd rather hold. I'd rather hold Matthew Golden. So if it has to be Love, then I guess that's fine to pick up Nix. If it has to be Love, I guess that's okay. Let's see. One flex between J-Mo, Keon Coleman, Travis Hunter, Calvin Ridley. Travis Hunter is in a good matchup against the Bengals. Ridley is in a better matchup this week against the Rams than he was last week against the Broncos. J-Mo, I don't want to overreact on J-Mo, but the Lions offense was bad last week, so I might want to see them do something before I go back to the well with J-Mo. I think my flex here is Ridley. And I know that that's maybe, I don't know if that's a surprise answer for you, given the other options, but Ridley is his team's wide receiver one. Any given week, I don't know that all of these other guys are regularly their team's wide receiver one. Coleman might be. Let's see if that trend continues. But J-Mo is not wide receiver one ahead of Amon-Ra, and Hunter is not wide receiver one ahead of Brian Thomas, not yet anyway. Ridley is the Titans wide receiver one. I like Iomanor, but I don't think he's there quite yet as far as usurping Calvin Ridley. I would go Ridley and bank on some volume at home in a better matchup than he had last week. I would take Ridley. Some good options there. Some good names. I would take Ridley and bank on some volume as his team's clear-cut wide receiver one. What's going on, Batty? Good to see you. Pittman, Diggs, RJ, Wandale. Who am I starting? Okay, so I didn't know that you had some of these other names. That being said, I think I would still lean Michael Pittman, even though I'm not crazy about him this week. He is potentially going to have to see Patrick Surtain. I don't know if Surtain's going to line up against Josh Downs at all. I don't know if he's going to line up against Tyler Warren in some hybrid, tight end cornerback matchup, which is possible. I don't know if he's going to see Pittman, but whoever Surtain sees is going to see a downgrade in production 9 times out of 10. That's how good Surtain is. So if he's seeing Surtain, that sucks. However, the Colts do have other weapons that they could theoretically, the Broncos, use Surtain against, like Tyler Warren. So it's possible Pittman doesn't see him for the entire game. I believe they're at home. Again, I think the Colts are home for the second straight week. Daniel Jones looked pretty good last week. It's not a good matchup. It's a tough matchup against a good Broncos defense, but I would go Pittman. Harvey is an interesting moonshot, but I just don't know if his production is there yet to be anything other than a low-end flex play. He had a great 50-yard run last week. He proved he deserves more opportunities, but he ended up with 70 rushing yards. That's a good NFL game, especially because he only had like 6 or 7 carries. That's a great contribution for his team in the win. That's not a good fantasy score. 7 half PPR points from a running back. That's worse than a flex. That's not what we're looking for. So I'll give it one more week on Harvey. I'll say Pittman here. I'll say Pittman. Okay, I got the flex question. You have someone wanting to trade Saquon for Derrick Henry and Keenan Allen. I don't really want to trade Derrick Henry after he led the league in rushing his first week. And I have to give up a wide receiver on top of it. Saquon's awesome. But so is Derrick Henry. And then you also have to give them Keenan Allen. So it's like an RB1 for RB1 swap, but you're the one that has to give up the wide receiver? No. Then they have to give up a good wide receiver. That's how if Saquon might have been a top 3 pick, but Derrick Henry wasn't anything worse than a late first, early second. He was just a guy that was drafted a little bit later. And then Keenan Allen had a really nice week 1 and his stock is up. I'm not trading an RB1 and I don't want to do an RB1 swap and then I'm the one that has to give something else up. No. They can give up another wide receiver. Oh, you have Saquon. Okay. They want to acquire Saquon from you for Derrick Henry and Keenan Allen. All right, well then, so on the flip side, then I'm a little bit more into it because you're the one getting an RB1 plus a viable wide receiver. And, keep in mind, Keenan Allen's not going to catch a touchdown every single week, but he looks to be attached to a very strong passing attack where he is one of the clear top 3 wide receivers on the roster, on the depth chart. So production should come. And it's a new old situation. He was with the Chargers for 4 years before last year. He's worked with Justin Herbert plenty. So chemistry is already built. Right? So, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. If you want to do it. You don't have to do it because you're trading a stud running back for a stud running back. But if you can get a wide receiver in return then and not have to give anything else up, then, yeah, that's enticing. As far as sitting Jameson Williams for Hollywood, I mean, you can. I get the thinking. However, if Xavier Worthy plays, then Hollywood loses a little bit of appeal. And Worthy was practiced in a limited fashion today. So I don't think that we can necessarily, Xavier Worthy might still get ruled out. But right now, today, we can't definitively say that he's ruled out. Not yet. If he plays, then Hollywood's value takes a little bit of a hit. And then at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm going to bank on the dude that I spent a top 50 or 55 pick on in Jameson Williams, and I'm going to rock with him for one more week and hope for the best. The Lions are at home. They should be able to get right against what looks to be yet again another broken Bears team. For everybody's for fantasy's sake, hopefully Ben Johnson can fix things, but it looked like the same old Bears on Monday night. So I would wait to see the availability of Xavier Worthy before I move forward on that one. And then do you sit in Njoku for Juwan Johnson? I'm not sure that I am ready to go there yet. Juwan had a great game. 8 for 76. That's awesome. But I don't know if I want to overcorrect so soon. We drafted David Njoku to be a tight end 1. Obviously, if you have Njoku, you were the folks who were not happy about Harold Fannon's emergence. But Njoku still out-snapped Fannon. He's still going to have a role here. Those targets could easily swing Njoku's way in his direction any given week, especially when he is out-snapping Harold Fannon still. Juwan had a great game. This is a different animal, though, in the San Francisco 49ers defense. Yes, they are banged up on offense, but their defense is still pretty strong. And they have good linebackers in Fred Warner to take away the tight end and make things more challenging for a young quarterback in Spencer Rattler. I think I would wait one more week before I bury David Njoku for a guy like Juwan Johnson. I would play Njoku. So, to recap, yes, I'm okay with the trade if you don't have to do if you don't have to throw in an additional player to make it happen. I would play JMO if Xavier Worthy plays for the Chiefs. If Xavier Worthy is ultimately ruled out, I'm fine with you playing Hollywood over JMO. So let's figure that out on Sunday. And then I would still rock with Njoku over a guy like Juwan Johnson for one more week. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you. Start Love, Daniel Jones, or Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, start Love. Jones had a great performance last week, but he's going up against the Denver Broncos. Tougher matchup. And Trevor Lawrence is in a great matchup. It was same old Trevor Lawrence this past week. He couldn't clear 200 yards passing with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. Another good pieces in Travis Etienne and Brenton Strange and Diami Brown to help fill out the depth of the offense. Trevor Lawrence still couldn't clear 200 passing yards. I know there was a weather delay in that game that threw things off, threw the rhythm into a funk. I get all that, but we're still waiting for Trevor Lawrence to take another step forward, and he hasn't done it. Love is better than him. So even on a Thursday night, because at least he's at home, I'll take Love over Trevor, and I'll take Love over Jones as well. Jones is in a bad matchup against the Broncos. Yeah, so I would definitely play Love. And then you have McPherson. I mean, McPherson's fine. I can't imagine scoring is a problem for them against Jacksonville. I will say I do like kickers on Thursday nights. I forgot to mention that in my spiel about my Thursday night football. How I'm feeling on the guys going tonight. I do generally like kickers on Thursday night for the simple reason, I guess, that it is more likely that on a Thursday night game with reduced time between your Sunday game and your next game, faster turnaround time, smaller game plan, less recovery. It doesn't surprise me when offenses stall out a little bit more than if they were playing the game on Sunday, and therefore they end up settling for points in the form of field goals. So I do like kickers on Thursday night. So that being said, outside of like Brandon Aubrey and, Kaimi Fairbairn, I am okay with playing either McManus or Matt Gay as your kicker tonight. I am okay with that in pretty much any scenario. If you have Brandon Aubrey, then don't bother. If you have Cam Little, don't bother. If you have Kaimi Fairbairn, don't bother. These are your guys that you're rocking with, those guys as your kickers. Maybe like Jake Elliott's in that conversation too. But if you don't have one of those guys, Chase McLaughlin might also be fine. Anything else? I'm okay with playing kickers on Thursday night. This goes for everybody. Brandon McManus, Matt Gay. I'm fine with either one of those guys tonight because generally speaking, I feel like we see more field goals kicked on the short weeks during the Thursday night games. So if you want to pick up McManus for McPherson, that's fine, Greg. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with dropping McPherson for McManus tonight. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So, yes, Love at quarterback. McManus over McPherson is good with me. What's going on, Rojo? Good to see you. Burrow, Caleb, Penix, Geno in Superflex. Well, Burrow's a definite, right? I know Burrow didn't have Burrow never has a good week one, right? It feels like it's illegal for the Cincinnati Bengals to have a good week one. That is just not allowed to happen. And then after that, everything's fine. We're firing up Burrow. No concerns there. And then between Caleb, Penix is playing the same tough Vikings defense that made Caleb Williams look silly in the second half of the Monday night game. So keep that in mind for Penix. And then we've got Geno against the Chargers. Oh, man, I'll take Caleb. I'll take Caleb. I don't feel super strong about it, but at least he has Ben Johnson. He has good weapons. It's another week in the system, another week in the offense, another week where he has fewer things to learn. Am I worried about Caleb Williams? Yes. Do I feel confident in Caleb Williams week over week? No. But he still put up, I think, 22, 24 fantasy points in a terrible terrible outing on Monday night because he ran a lot. If he's running more against Detroit on the road, that's hard to ignore from a fantasy perspective. I'll take Burrow and Caleb. Rojo. I'll take Burrow and Caleb. My confidence in Caleb in fantasy is like a 6 out of 10, and then in real life is like a 3 out of 10. But maybe he'll come through. What's going on, Nino? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Let me get a couple more questions where I left off. Hope all is well with you as well. ETN, Dobbins, and Tracy this week. Not Tracy. I don't trust the Giants at all right now outside of Malik Neighbors. I don't want to play anybody on the Giants. I don't want to play Tracy. I don't want to play Scattaboo. I don't want to play Wandale. I mean, maybe deep PPR leagues, Wandale maybe, but that's about it. And I don't want to play Theo Johnson, and I certainly don't want to play Russ, even in Superflex. So I don't want to play Tracy. It's between ETN and Dobbins. ETN, great matchup against the Bengals. Dobbins on the road against the Colts. Not as good of a matchup, but not a terrible matchup. I guess ETN, I think, has a little bit more grip on the starting job right now than Dobbins does. It'll be very interesting to see how much work Byshel Tootin gets for Jacksonville this week now that Tank Bigsby has been traded. Does Tootin get more work than LaQuint Allen? That's also something that we can call into question. I think there's more questions behind ETN than there is with Dobbins. The question behind Dobbins is RJ Harvey, and the question is how much longer until our Harvey sees more work. I'll say ETN. I'll say ETN over Dobbins and Tracy. And then between these three guys, Dobbins, Coleman, and Pittman, this is where I might lean the running back even in full PPR. Coleman, let's see if he can do it for a second straight week against Sauce Gardner. Pittman is seeing possibly seeing Patrick Surtain. So those are some tough matchups for the wide receivers. So I'm leaning Dobbins. I'm leaning Dobbins as my start over Coleman and Pittman. Yeah. I would play Dobbins is like that cutoff running back that I would play over a guy like Michael Pittman, just because he's in a tough matchup and may see Patrick Surtain. All right, Johnny, Lucius, Brian, Steve, I see your questions. Appreciate your patience. Sit tight. Let me help Nino out. Again, that is a perk of being a member of the channel. You will get your questions responded to in priority order, or if you're feeling so inclined, a super would also be a line jumper. Okay, so we're flexing either Corey Croskey-Merritt, Ridley, Swift, or Dylan Sampson in full PPR. I do like Ridley to bounce back this week in a better matchup against the Rams than the one that he drew week 1 against Patrick Surtain. So I will say that I do like Ridley's spot this week. I think he's in for a good, I think he's in for a better performance than what we saw last Sunday. Croskey-Merritt is obviously super enticing. He had a spectacular debut last week against the Giants. Now he goes up against a much tougher defense in the Green Bay Packers on the road on a short week. I think I would go Ridley and then Bill and then Swift and then Sampson. What we don't know as it pertains to Sampson yet is how much, if at all, is Quinshon Judkins going to play. Judkins met with the NFL yesterday, presumably to talk about potential discipline for what went down with Judkins in the offseason. I actually didn't see any reports or updates about what transpired from that meeting. If anybody knows, feel free to let me know. Quinshon Judkins. I'm looking this up right now. He's expected to play with the Browns on Sunday and isn't expected to... No, that's a not verified source. I am not seeing anything about Judkins and how his meeting with the NFL went on Wednesday. So, until we know definitively what's going on with Judkins, if he plays this week, it's going to be hard to vouch for Sampson, even if Sampson receives the majority of opportunities. Judkins mixing in would hurt Sampson's chances at playing well or producing well for fantasy, excuse me. I think I lean Ridley here in full PPR as a clear wide receiver 1 for his team in a much better matchup than he had last week. I think the volume will find Ridley. I think he can come through with a pretty rock-solid floor. Corey Croskey-Merritt would be a swing for the fences, would be an upside ceiling play if you feel like you need it, if you feel like you need to be aggressive against your opponent, if you feel like that opponent has a stronger lineup than you, then maybe you swing for the fences and play Croskey-Merritt. I will crown Croskey-Merritt if he performs well tonight. I know he was great week 1 against the Giants. If he does it again week 2 on a short week against a good Green Bay defense, then yes, he's in your lineup for the rest of the season in all likelihood, and we're not thinking twice about it, or at least for the short term. I will go with Ridley for just this week, Nino, and then we'll take it. We'll take it from there for week 3. I would slightly lean Ridley over Croskey-Merritt. No Swift. Don't trust him. Don't trust his role. And right now, I don't trust Sampson's role if Quinshon Judkins is in fact returning to play this week. All right. I have my spot. Decent streaming options for tight end because Goddard seems unlikely to play. I mean, Juwan Johnson, of course, if he's available, 8 catches for 76 yards. I don't like him over somebody like David Njoku, but if you are in need of a warm body, you could go Juwan Johnson. You could go Jonnu Smith against Seattle. Jonnu is looking like Pittsburgh's number 2 option in the passing game. He only had 15 yards receiving, but he did catch the touchdown. I think he had 4 catches, so his role could continue to increase here. Fannin might already be scooped, but if he's available, he's worth a shot. Yeah, it depends on who's available. It depends on who's available on the wire. Did somebody get dropped that is worth taking a look at? Yeah, it would be helpful to know who are the available tight ends on the wire that you can pick up, and we can go from there. But like a Jawan Johnson would be fine as a fill-in. Need one flex spot. Debo, Dobbins, Pacheco. I am not firing up Pacheco until further notice. Need to see more. Need to see more than 5 carries. And they get the Eagles this week, and the Eagles get Jalen Carter back after his ejection from the start of the Thursday game. So their run defense is going to be a lot better than it was on Thursday night. And Pacheco, hasn't been great since he broke his leg early last year. So not Pacheco. It's between Debo and Dobbins for me. Debo, again, tough matchup tonight against a good Green Bay defense. Dobbins on the road, not as tough of a matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. And I think it's fair to say the Broncos are a better team. So if they're winning this game, they're going to be running the football. And last week they were running the football in the fourth quarter, and it was J.K. Dobbins who was getting the rock. That won't last all season long. R.J. Harvey's going to have his time, going to get his opportunity. But for now, early in the season, we can still rock with a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who we expect to get most of the opportunities in the Broncos backfield for at least one more week. I'll take Dobbins. I know Debo had a good game this past week. He scored a rushing touchdown. He had a nice stat line. Let's see if he can do it again. Short week on the road against Green Bay. Let's play Dobbins instead. Let's play Dobbins instead. Yeah, I mean, is Quentin Johnston, finally breaking out and potentially fantasy relevant? Yeah, I mean, he's a third-year pro. It doesn't... I know we live in an age of instant gratification, and I'm not saying that anyone here specifically is looking for now production from these guys, but, when a rookie doesn't go nuts right away, it's almost like, the first inclination for everybody is to say that he stinks, that he's not good, he's a bust, he's not as good as some of the other guys taken around him or other guys at the position taken like later than him. It didn't work out great for Quentin Johnston his rookie season, and then last year was an up and down year. He had some big performances, he had some big drops. Right, that was a problem for Quentin Johnston last year. Was focus, right, and not dropping the football. It's just one game, but he had a really nice showing against the Chiefs in Brazil. And this looks like an offense that's going to throw the ball a lot with Justin Herbert. Why wouldn't you? If Justin Herbert was my quarterback, I would call a bunch of pass plays too. But what do I know? Quentin Johnston has week-to-week stability because of this offense. He does not have a guarantee to produce every week. Some of those touchdowns are going to go to Ladd over the course of the season. Some of those touchdowns are going to go to the tight ends or the running backs. Maybe Keenan Allen has a 2-touchdown output here and there. Quentin Johnston's not going to have 2 touchdowns every week. Maybe he doesn't have 2 touchdowns in a game again this season. That's just because it's hard to score multiple touchdowns in a game, no matter who you are. But he clearly has a role, and he's clearly worth hanging on to if you have him. As far as starting him, I'm not there yet over a guy like Debo. I'm not crazy about Debo tonight, but I would play him over Quentin Johnston for at least this week. I would play Debo over Quentin Johnston for at least this week. I would want to see, give me, he did great. Do it again. Do it again, and then we have conversations about you potentially entering the starting lineup. But yeah, Quentin Johnston's absolutely worth a stash. He should be rostered. If he's not on a roster in your league, he should be. but I'm not ready to start him yet over somebody like Debo. Let's see, I got Bobby's question already. Thank you again to my members. Appreciate your support. Start Diggs or Jaden Reed? Oy. It's tough to back either one of them. It really is. Stephon Diggs is 32 years old. He didn't have a great game. He's coming off a torn ACL. They are in a great matchup against Miami, but the offense struggled last week, and it's kind of a tough situation to trust. The Packers did not struggle last week, and they have a good prospects to do well tonight against Washington at home on a short week. I just don't know if Jaden Reed is going to continue to be the guy that gets the opportunities every single week. He caught the touchdown week 1. That was great to see. He's still also dealing with the Jones fracture, and he just played 4 days ago. So, how healthy is Jaden Reed? How comfortable is he out there playing 2 games in 5 days? Or 4 days, 2 games in 4 days. That's a lot. That's a lot for any player. It's especially a lot for somebody who's got a Jones fracture and is already dealing with a lot of pain in their foot. My head tells me that you should play Stephon Diggs. I guess my gut tells you to play Jaden Reed, even though I don't feel great about either one. It's truly a coin flip. Just, count out their green flags and their red flags. Unfortunately, there look like more red flags with these 2 players than there are green flags. Diggs, questionable offense, 32 years old, coming off torn ACL. Jaden Reed, Jones fracture. I guess I give the slight nod to Jaden Reed and just hope that his foot can hold up. Because I think Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Drake May. So that's what I'll bank on. That's what I'll lean on. Let's see. I got my member questions. Appreciate you guys. And thank you for liking the stream. If you haven't yet, that's okay. But maybe if you could consider liking the stream, that helps me out for algorithm purposes. Appreciate that. J.K. Dobbins, Dylan Sampson, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Benson. Give me Dobbins. I think Dobbins over Ramondre. Ramondre saw more work last week than I think we expected. Yeah, he did. But I don't think I would play him over Dobbins because I'm just of the belief that Travion Henderson is closer to taking over more opportunities for the Patriots than RJ Harvey is for the Broncos. Sampson is a rotational piece if Quinshon Judkins is healthy and playing and active, and same can be said for Trey Benson. Dobbins should operate as a 1A for at least one more week, and there's nothing scary about the matchup against the Colts. I'll take Dobbins of this group. And if it's start 2 running backs, then I would say play Sampson if Judkins is inactive. But if he is active, I may consider playing Ramondre. But if it's just start 1, then I would just play Dobbins. All right. And do I feel comfortable starting Mason and Henderson? I mean, depends on who your other options are, but I mean, sure. They're both flexible. Mason looked good Monday night. Jones got the touchdown because he's Aaron freaking Jones and he's a stud. But Mason looked good running the ball. He's going to have a regular role in this offense. Yeah, you can feel pretty good about firing him up. And they're going to run the ball this year, the Vikings, to help protect J.J. McCarthy. And as he, continues to get acclimated. That dude's a gamer, by the way. Speaking of, J.J. McCarthy looks like just one game. I mean, he's like, he's tough, man. He's made of nails. I would feel very good if I were a Vikings fan right now. I would feel very good about J.J. McCarthy as my starting quarterback. But anyway, he is still a rookie, and they're going to run the ball a lot this year. They're going to run it with Aaron Jones, and they're going to run it with Jordan Mason. And they're going to throw it to Aaron Jones, and they're going to throw it to Jordan Mason. So, yeah, I'm fine with Mason. And then Henderson, I'm fine with as a flex option, at least right now, because I do think his role is going to continue to grow and expand. He had 6 catches last week, even with Ramondre working in more than we thought he would. Yeah, I'm fine with both of those guys in my starting lineup. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Both solid running back options all season long. Start 2 in full PPR. Evans, Egbuka, Sutton. You're definitely starting Sutton. He looked good last week. Caught a touchdown. Clear-cut wide receiver 1 for Bo Nix. Nothing scary about the matchup. Yeah. Sutton for sure. And then I guess I would say I don't want to sit Egbuka. I don't want to sit Egbuka at all, but I think I would. Obviously, Egbuka outperformed Mike Evans last week in the box score, but I don't know that I'm banking on Mike Evans taking a back seat every single week to the rookie. Evans is a baller. He's a future Hall of Famer. I think I would rock with Evans for one more week. I really wish I didn't have to advocate for you not playing Emeka Egbuka, but I would play Evans and Sutton. I would definitely play Sutton because, you don't have, the Bucs options could absolutely cannibalize each other. You don't have that issue with Sutton. So I would play Sutton for sure. And then I'm going to lean Evans, the vet, the future Hall of Famer, the guy who can still do it at a high level. I would lean Evans. I take no joy in not suggesting Emeka Egbuka, but let's see him do it again before we put him over guys like Evans and Sutton. Week 1 was great. Do it again. Do it again, and then you can go in the starting lineup over guys like Evans and Sutton. Bill or Calvin Austin, especially in standard scoring. I think my answer is Bill. He got 10 carries last week. He was very efficient with them. He scored. It's not a great matchup tonight against Green Bay on a short week on the road, but he feels like less of a dart throw than Calvin Austin right now. Calvin Austin had a nice day and he scored a touchdown. That's looking like a random. Touchdowns in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense are going to be random this year, man. It could be Calvin Austin. It'll probably be DK Metcalf a lot of weeks. It could go to Ben Skoranek. It could go to Jonnu Smith. It could go to Pat Freiermuth. It could go to Jaylen Warren. Whoever else they even have in their wide receiver room. It's such a hodgepodge collection of talent. Croskey-Merritt, I think, has a little bit more of a stabilized, finite role than Calvin Austin does. And especially since you're not getting points for catches, I'll take Bill. Yeah. All right, what else do we have here? We got about a half hour before kickoff. Mahomes or J.J. McCarthy? And it's 6-point passing touchdowns. If Xavier Worthy plays, which he might because he was a limited participant in practice today, which was a bit of a surprise, but a pleasant surprise. If Xavier Worthy plays on Sunday, then I would start Patrick Mahomes. If Xavier Worthy is out and does not play for the Kansas City Chiefs, then I would start J.J. McCarthy. And you'll know because Mahomes plays in the late window and McCarthy plays on Sunday Night Football. So you will know the game status of Xavier Worthy before you have to make a decision. And that's what I would bank it on. If Worthy plays, I would start Mahomes. If Worthy sits, I would start J.J. McCarthy. And yeah, I'm fine with dropping Carlson for McManus. I generally like kickers on Thursday nights. Short turnaround time for a game, reduced condensed game plan, less recovery time, probability of sluggish football goes up, even between two good teams. Therefore, drives stall out and more field goals are attempted. Generally speaking, not all the time, but generally speaking on Thursday Night Football. So yeah, McManus is fine to play tonight. If you don't have Brandon McManus, Matt Gay is fine to play tonight. I am okay with the kickers, with both kickers on Thursday Night Football. More than okay with that. And then, yeah, so similar wavelength. If Worthy is back, then Keenan Allen. When do the Chargers play? Do they play at the same time? They must, because they're playing Vegas. So it's got to be it's a West Coast game, so it has to be in the late window. So you'll know who's in and who's out for those late window games. If Worthy is active, I would play Keenan Allen. If Worthy is inactive, I would play Hollywood. Yeah. Wait and see. Let's wait and see the status of Xavier Worthy and if he's able to play. Because it was looking initially like he was going to miss multiple weeks with this shoulder injury, but now he's practicing in a limited fashion this week. Yep. Let's keep an eye on the status of Xavier Worthy. We are at the end of the chat. Let me double check and see if there are any more practice reports that have come through since I first went live. Packers tackle Zach Tom and guard Aaron Banks are inactive for Thursday night tonight. That hurts their offensive line. Not that you're taking Josh Jacobs out of your lineup. And I think even, if you're between a guy like Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence, I'm not taking Jordan Love out of my lineup. But, having two guys on the offensive line inactive for this game is not ideal for the Packers. I will say that. And the goal for the Packers tonight is to play edge rusher Micah Parsons over 50% of the defensive snaps. So he continues to ramp up for his new team, does Micah Parsons. The hope is that he plays more than half the game for Green Bay this evening. Yep, that's fine. Yeah, McCaffrey and Warren is as your starters. Yeah, that's fine. McCaffrey's obvious, and then Warren, I think, is a good. I think Warren's a good running back to have right now, at least for the first half of the season. He looks to be firmly ahead of Caleb Johnson on the depth chart. And Kenny Gainwell got a lot of opportunities last week as well. However, Jaylen Warren he outsnapped Kenny Gainwell, and he had way more opportunities than Kenny Gainwell. I guess Gainwell was mostly in there. When Gainwell was in there, for the most part, he didn't get an opportunity, whether it was to pass block or play action or whatever have you. He got a few opportunities, but not a ton. It was Warren who got a lot of the work for Pittsburgh. So, yeah, you feel good about that. Yeah, you feel good about Warren. Yeah. Okay. I will stick around for a little bit longer here if anybody needs anything, with about 25 minutes, maybe about 35 minutes before kickoff. I mentioned this on Tuesday, but just I'll table that. I just got a super from Gourmet Diarrhea. Love the name. 10 points all the way around. But appreciate the super. Thank you for the support. You just traded Keon Coleman for Rashee Rice. Okay, so you sold Coleman off a strong game, and you picked up the Chiefs wide receiver 1, but obviously you're going to have to wait like 5 more weeks before you can put him in your starting lineup. I like it in a vacuum. The question I guess I have is, who are you relying on for the next 5 weeks to get you through the rest of the suspension? If your wide receiver depth is strong and you've got, your flex is well taken care of between your wide receiver and running back depth, and you feel like you can take a short-term hit as far as production now to try to get production later, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the trade. I just would like to know, what's the wide receiver depth that we're working with for the next 5 weeks while we wait for Rashee Rice? And I know I definitely just pronounced his name 2 different ways in that thought process. I like it in a vacuum. I like the trade in a vacuum because Rice has top 25, top 30 flex appeal any given week of the season when he's healthy. So I'm with it. I just want to make sure you have guys that can help you now, like viable, not just like dart throw options, viable options that can get you through the next 5 weeks, since you won't have Rice. But I like it. I like it. I like it in a vacuum. I do. I drafted Rice in a couple of leagues, obviously with the intention of stashing him and waiting on him until he comes back from suspension. So acquiring him is something that I am more than okay with. Pickens, McLaurin, and Sutton. Okay, I mean, Sutton can be a top 15 wide receiver. McLaurin should be able to be a top 20 wide receiver, and Pickens is, I guess, in that same camp. So yeah, you've got like a wide receiver 1 and you've got a wide receiver 1. You got a couple wide receiver 2s. So yeah, you should be fine. You should be fine until Rice comes back, and then Rice becomes a fixture in your lineup after that, in my opinion. We'll, of course, cross that bridge when we get to it. But, yeah, I think you're okay to weather the storm until Rice comes back. And then once he's back, he's an auto add to your starting lineup. You set and forget it. Especially because, I wasn't crazy about what I saw from Travis Kelce last Friday against the Chargers in Brazil. He had the touchdown, but he only got 4 targets, and that was with no Rashee Rice. And for most of the game, no Xavier Worthy. And Travis Kelce could only muster 4 targets. So I quite like Rice as an acquisition and a stash for the stretch run. Yeah, I think you did perfectly fine with that trade. So yeah, nicely done. Appreciate the super. Thank you for the support. Let me know if you need anything else. Sport. You have Alvin Kamara over Warren. Yeah, I would play Kamara over Warren. I like Warren, but Kamara's the bell cow of the Saints offense, and it's a tougher matchup against the 49ers, but they're at home. Kamara's still doing it. I would play Kamara over Jaylen Warren. Sport dog. I would play Alvin Kamara. I would play Alvin Kamara until he gives you a reason not to play him. And last week he gave you a reason to continue playing him. So I would keep rolling out Kamara. Okay. The Rams defense against the Titans, that is a road game for LA, or the Arizona Cardinals at home against Carolina. I'm inclined to say the Rams. They're both in good matchups, but the Cardinals were a little disappointing last week given the expectations. They were playing the New Orleans Saints, the Spencer Rattler-led New Orleans Saints, who are going through a rebuild. It's really hard to say that they're actively trying this year. The players will tell you that they are. The front office strategy and moves that they've made over the past offseason will tell you differently. And now they have to play the Carolina Panthers, who they didn't look great, but I think they're better than the New Orleans Saints. So, like, how good is Arizona even? The Rams have a good front seven. They're going up against a rookie quarterback. Yes, he's at home now compared to on the road, and it is his second career NFL start, not his first, but that's still not a lot of time, not a lot of experience. The Titans don't have a great offense. I'll take the Rams. I'll take the Rams against the rookie quarterback. Yep. All right, I still don't see anything as far as any new injury updates or general updates. So I think we're good there. All right, we are at the end of the chat. As a reminder, I mentioned this on Tuesday. If you were not able to join the Tuesday stream, I will be traveling this weekend. Starting tomorrow to Sunday, I will be out of town, and I will not, therefore, be available for start-sit streams, the usual start-sit streams on Saturday and Sunday. If you need start-sit help, you can do one of two things. You can leave your question in the form of a comment on any video or live stream on the channel. This one may make the most sense. Or you can hit me in the Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream and all descriptions across all videos and streams on the channel. Evergreen free invite. There is a start sit tab where you can ask those questions in the Discord. Again, free to join, evergreen invite. I could answer questions over there as I am available, again, as I am making my way through my travels. I will be back next Tuesday for week 3 waivers, and then it'll be a normal cadence once again. Thursday Night Football on Thursday, and then my Saturday, Sunday start-sit streams for week 3. So I will be a little bit more remote. If you need start-sit help this weekend, paste it in the form of a comment, either on a video on the channel or hit me in Discord, and I will get you there as I am available. I think that might about do it for me this evening, now that we are at the end of the chat. If anybody needs any last-minute thoughts before Thursday Night Football, again, you can hit me in Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream and all videos and streams on the channel. But if everybody's all good, appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out tonight right before Thursday Night Football. Thank you guys for coming in and talking shop. Appreciate your support. Special shout out to my members. I saw Bobby. I saw Sport Dog. I saw Batty. I saw Greg, and I saw Nino. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you, Nick, and my favorite username of all time. Thank you, Gourmet Diarrhea, and also Nick for your supers. Appreciate the support. And of course, everybody else, everybody in general jumping in. Thank you for taking the time, whether it was for 10 minutes or for an hour, however long you were hanging in here. Appreciate the support. Glad you thought enough to come hang out and talk shop before football. I think that'll do it for me tonight. Everybody enjoy football tonight. Enjoy the weekend in general. Have fun. Be safe. Hope all fantasy and betting and everything goes your way. I will be back again on Tuesday for week 3 waivers, and my start sit live streams will resume next weekend ahead of week 3. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the weekend.